Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another edition of Dragon Ball Super Reviews and Predictions, in which I'm going to be talking about Dragon Ball Super Episode 49, and then giving my predictions for what's going to happen Episode 50. Well, a lot of stuff happened on this edition of Dragon Ball Super, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about, so without further ado, let's get started. This episode left us off the same place that the last week's episode ended off with Trunks raging out and attacking Goku, mistaking him for Goku Black or Black Goku. But quickly after Bulma slaps him, Trunks comes to the realization that in fact this is the real Goku who died defending the Earth against Cell. And after Trunks asks Goku how he's still there considering that he died against Cell, Goku laughs and says a lot of stuff has happened since then. It's at this point that present timeline Trunks also discovers that future Trunks is in fact his future self, as both Beerus and Whis seem to understand and come to the conclusion that time travel was involved in this whole situation. At which point they find and examine the time machine for themselves. Back in the future, it appeared that Goku Black was trying to use the instant transmission to lock onto Trunks' key so that he could teleport to him, however he was completely unable to find him. After he realized that Trunks traveled to the past, the strange ring on his finger began to glow and shot out a thread into what appeared to be a portal, which appeared to be the same portal that Trunks went through to go to the past timeline of the main timeline. In the present, Whis essentially explains to everyone how the butterfly effect works, in which when you go back in time and alter certain things, little by little everything changes and it can end up in a gigantic catastrophe, which is why gods are the only ones who are allowed to travel through time. Beerus wants to destroy the time machine, however Trunks gets down and begs to Whis for them to not to. However, Bulma actually has to tell Trunks that in fact Beerus is the god of destruction and not Whis. But after begging to Beerus says that if Trunks can give them a food they've never had before, they won't destroy the machine, at which time Trunks provides them with sausages, which they of course love. After Bulma goes into Trunks' time machine and examines it, she discovers that they only had enough fuel to make the one-way trip and thus cannot return to the future. However, when she hits the dashboard in anger, she discovers a note that was left by her future self inside of the time machine. Goku and Vegeta ask Trunks what happened in his timeline, and if the one that's threatening their world is Majin Buu and if he ever came, and Trunks explains to them what happened. Apparently Babidi did in fact show up in his future along with Deborah, and they're trying to take energy from the human population to resurrect Majin Buu. However, Trunks trained with the Kaioshin or Supreme Kai and was able to defeat Deborah and kill Babidi, making it so Buu was never resurrected in his timeline. He also explains how Black initially showed up and started destroying everything on the Earth, killing everyone in his wake. But naturally, he was far too outmatched by Black to stop him. Vegeta gets pissed off at Trunks for running away from the fight because that is not what a true Saiyan would do. However, Bulma reintroduces the note that her future self sent to her and explains how she could probably use this in order for them to go back to the future and perhaps fight Black. At this point, Goku and future Trunks power up to have a fight. Future Trunks shockingly turns into a Super Saiyan 2, and so does Goku in order to combat him. But Goku is able to get the advantage over future Trunks at first, and then transforms into a Super Saiyan 3. Trunks jumps at him at full force, slashing down at him with his sword. However, Goku is able to pretty easily block it and then knocks Trunks down to the ground, defeating him pretty easily. At which point, Trunks says that Black is probably at least as strong as Goku is, which of course makes Goku happy. But finally, to wrap up this episode, the evil Black Goku appears in a portal in the main timeline, and Goku steps up ready to challenge him. So basically, this was episode 49 of Dragon Ball Super, and overall, I thought it was another good episode. So far, this newest season, this newest arc of Dragon Ball Super has shown us great episode after great episode. But naturally, with the pros come the cons. So in the interest of fairness, let me talk about both individually right now. As for the pros, once again, everything involving future Trunks in this episode was great. Once again, this character is continuing to prove over and over again why he's one of my top 5 favorite characters in the history of this franchise. Seeing his story unfold not only in the present timeline with his conflict with Goku, but also in his future timelining, finding out all this stuff about his future and what happened after he went back and defeated Cell and the androids in his own time. And that's one of my favorite parts of this episode so far, and something as a fan of this franchise I have wondered about for so very long. What happened when Trunks went back to his own time? And finally, we got to find out just a little bit more about it, as apparently Babidi and Dabura did in fact show up and Trunks had to fight them. And I feel like Dabura is one of the most underutilized and one of the most wasted villains in this series, who could have been so much more and done so much more. So seeing him essentially become the main villain of an arc that took place off screen in future Trunks' timeline is pretty awesome, and it makes me happy that they're still utilizing him, and they're still remembering that he and Babidi exist this far after all of the events have happened in the real world. And that's certainly a positive when it comes to somebody actually keeping track of continuity at Toei, which is something we haven't really seemed to see a whole lot in the series thus far. Additionally, I really like the fact that Trunks was a Super Saiyan 2 and was able to achieve that under his own power in the future. And I like the whole sequence in which he and Goku fight and test their powers. And I thought it was a really nice touch that Bulma put a force field around the two so that the effects of their battle was not felt all the way around the world, which is one of my biggest issues I've had with the previous arcs, and the fact that in the first arc, Goku and Beerus were destroying the entire universe with their fight, and then the two subsequent arcs, they weren't really doing any damage to the environment around them whatsoever. So them adding that little force field around there is one of those little touches I really like as a fan of this series, and that I feel like really contributes to positive overall good storytelling and writing on their parts. And certainly getting a lot more backstory and lore about Goku Black, seeing how he came to the Earth, and the fact that I guess that he had destroyed other planets before he arrived there, and he said that when he first arrived he was going to wipe out the people of Earth in the name of justice, is very interesting and subverts our ideas and expectations as to what this character is. Perhaps from his point of view, he is not actually evil, and what he's doing is for the benefit of the universe, and whoever is, I guess, manipulating him, or whoever may have brainwashed him to be evil in the first place, has convinced him that what is happening right now is in fact good. However, considering the Goku we've come to all know and love, I would assume that he probably lost his memory for all of this to come about in the first place. Or he could just be from another universe where bad is good there. Who knows? In either case, I'm very intrigued by this, and I really can't wait to find out just how Black Goku became the evil character he is today. It really had to be some sort of massive change of events. But I did have some cons with this episode as well. Mainly the cons that I had with the previous two episodes, insofar as Toei is putting still too much padding in these episodes, particularly with the Pilaf gang. I feel like with the other two entries into this arc so far, Toei has kind of had the same issue, where they focus way too much on the Pilaf gang and way too much on their padding segments to kind of pad out the story of the episode to save things for the end of the episode. So as a result of that, we see way too much of their antics and way too much of their kind of, again, happy-go-lucky or tensionless moments, and then Black Goku shows up when there's only 30 seconds left in the episode for a cliffhanger. And I can understand that from a point of view in that you want people to watch the next episode, but at the same time, we could have gotten a little bit more time spent finding out more about how Trunks defeated Dabura and Babidi, or his training or his instructions from the Supreme Kai, or maybe a little bit more about Black's motivation, seeing him travel through time to the past so that we could see maybe his introspective of his thoughts at that point in time, why he was coming to the past, and why he wanted to kill Trunks in the first place. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they could have spent more time on developing than we got with the Pilaf gang, which is kind of pointless. I understand the point of developing the relationship between Mai and Trunks, that's perfectly fine, and that makes Kid Trunks and Future Trunks more compelling as characters and gives them more humanity, but ultimately I feel like you could do that without spending so much time on their antics in the meantime. And additionally, the fact that Goku went both Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan 3 in this episode doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, as in his fight with Beerus he was a Super Saiyan, and this was after absorbing the God Ki into his body, and Goku stated that as a Super Saiyan he didn't even realize that he was no longer a god because he didn't feel any weaker. However, if Goku can still access additional transformations on top of that, why didn't he simply transform into a Super Saiyan 2 or a Super Saiyan 3 so that he could be 8 times stronger and defeat Beerus in their battle? Or additionally, when Vegeta was having so much trouble defeating Vegeta and they essentially seemed on par, why didn't Vegeta simply transform into a Super Saiyan 2 or a Super Saiyan 3 if he has it at this point and just effortlessly knock him out of the ring? It doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense, especially considering the interview with Akira Toriyama where he said that they're not going to do Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan 3 anymore, and that they were simply focusing on powering up their base in their Super Saiyan transformation. So that's another issue with continuity that I feel like even though Toei did have a little bit of good continuity earlier in this episode by talking about Deborah and Babidi showing up in Trunks' timeline, but for stuff like this they really need to hammer in the continuity and they really need to make sure they stay on track, or else we get scenes like this which seem cool and look cool but make absolutely no sense when you apply any sort of actual constructive thinking to it. But those are the only real issues I had with this episode, and overall I thought this episode was really good. Even though these past 3 episodes have had cons, every single episode of this series and of this franchise pretty much has cons in one way or another. What matters is the pros versus the cons, and if the pros outweigh the cons. In this case, I certainly feel that they do, just as I have with these previous 2 episodes. So overall, I would still say it's really good and really enjoyable, and all the parts that are really good are just so good that they make everything else that was negative in the episode really seem inconsequential as a result. Though I still wish that Toei would fix those things so that I can enjoy these episodes that much more, and so we could have a much more cohesive and enjoyable show as a result of it. Now with all that being said, let's move on to my predictions. And as we see in the next episode preview, it seems all about Goku versus Goku Black, or Black Goku. The evil and good counterparts coming against one another and clashing in an epic showdown. However, as we could see, it doesn't seem like Goku Black is transforming at all, and Goku himself is fighting him as a Super Saiyan 2. So either this Goku Black doesn't have any additional transformations, or he's simply that much more powerful than Goku in his base alone, which is scary to think of. But it looks like Goku Black is actually getting the advantage over Goku as we see in this one shot. And as I said last week, I predict that Goku Black is probably going to get the advantage over Goku and perhaps defeat him in their initial encounter. After all, the villain coming in and then losing in his first fight would certainly diminish the tension that's being felt as a result of this character. However, there still is the possibility that he's being manipulated by someone that much more powerful or that much more evil, so it's entirely possible that if he does in fact end up losing, it'll simply usher in the way for that character to come as well. But we'll just have to see with the next coming episode. Well, my name is Mike, and this has been another edition of Dragon Ball Super reviews and predictions. Let me know your own thoughts down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Do it now. What do you wait?
Do it now, you puny man. Who cares about the universe 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Blah.
After the universe of biceps. No.